Fine. There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome. If you are lost because you clicked on a random link, this is the Shadows of the App discussion. We are, we have all completed the Shadows of the App by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and we completed it. How long ago? It was like over a year ago now, right? Because we finished in August.
We completed in 2022.
Yeah, so this has been a long time coming. That we've been waiting to do this, and blame me because I just was like, let's do this, and then never followed up. So it's definitely my fault. But I have been waiting. I'm excited for this. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Ben from Books with Benghis Khan, but for today's chat, I am Benwold Maker.
Hey guys, I'm Anitha. I have a channel with the same name, my name Anitha Kade, and I read fantasy and review fantasy books. And this is one of our favorite series. Though I'm angry with Pete for not doing this sooner, I mean, I'm happy at least we are discussing it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm Pete from the Ponderings of Pete, and this is, my channel. I'm Ponderings of Tismon today. And yeah, everybody's linked down below. Anybody we mention, I'll probably end up linking down below. Alan's linked down below because we'll probably mention Alan at some point.
Yeah, his channel was the reason I read this series, and Adrian Tchaikovsky's on my radar to begin with, but this was my first Tchaikovsky and part of his channel read along, and it was great. Like, I had a great time. It seems like basically everyone that was doing that read along of the first 4 books really liked it, or mostly liked them. I was probably one of the most enthusiastic ones, because right when it ended, I'm like, I'm keeping on going. I just want to keep going. And man, I took a little bit of a break, but just a few months, and then I was back in, and it became one of my favorite series. And even though it's been like a year and a half since I finished, and I've only read them once, I have such a strong memory for these books in this series. Like, I feel like I almost just read them a few months ago, so my memory feels pretty strong for them. I think that it's about how impactful the books felt and the series felt. I was just binging it. I was so immersed in these, and it left a real mark on my memory.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the same boat where I was just loving the world, loving the characters, even though the names kind of escape me for a lot of them sometimes. And there are so many scenes throughout the series that are vividly etched in my brain that one of these days I'll reread this series, and I don't know when that will be. I almost did a reread this year because I know Evie and a few other people are going to be reading the series for the first time.
Ooh.
After we get done with the final architecture buddy read in March. So they'll start in like April, I think. But there's just so much detail and beauty in what this series does.
And it's a hidden gem. It's so underread. Like, I don't know exactly what went on with the publishing of this series, but it was Tchaikovsky's debut. I think it was Tor UK that originally published it. And there was... Who originally published it? But like...
The first covers that I have are from Peer. I don't know if that's an imprint of Tor or not, though.
But so that's like a minor press then. So like he did not probably get much of any kind of big marketing push. He was a debut author. Like, he didn't really become prominent in the genre until Children of Time took off and started like winning awards. And then like people are reading his sci-fi, but then he has this 10-book fantasy series that was his first published works, and like barely anyone has gone back and read those. And it is this just utter gem in modern fantasy. It's like, published right around the same time as Mistborn and Name of the Wind and The End of the Wheel of Time. It's like, man, for people who like big, long, epic fantasy series, like, this is so good. Like, A Song of Ice and Fire people who are waiting for the next book are like rereading A Song of Ice and Fire for the 5th time. It's like, try out this other epic fantasy series. I mean, this is such a hidden gem. And interestingly, like, I had only heard a couple of times mentioned, like, until Alan's read along, it was pretty
Mhm.
off my radar. Like I just heard the name Shadows of the Apt, but I didn't really know anything about it. And the name itself was a little intimidating because like
Yeah.
the name gives off this vibe of a very dark, like dense, intimidating series. Like kind of like I felt about Malazan, like
Yeah.
Malazan, Book of the Fallen. Like I felt Shadows of the Apt had that same ring to it with the name. So I was like intimidated by it. I didn't seek it out. And then I read it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so readable and accessible.
Yeah.
It's like, Sanderson or Gwyn level, just like accessible writing and fast paced and just not doing like throwing too much like world building or history at you. So it throws a good amount of characters and situations, but like it gradually ramps that up and does a little bit more each book. So like it's pretty accessible. I think the audience for the series is massive. Like the audience who would love it, it's like crossover between Sanderson's audience and maybe John Gwyn's audience. Like some of the more gritty action, like it reminds me of John Gwyn, and then just the creativity and world building of Sanderson, and being a pretty high fantasy. But it's really doing its own thing with the World War II inspired geopolitics. Like I don't really know of any close comparison that I could point to. It's really just its own animal. But man, it's so underread. It's like just does not have many people that have read through the whole series or even started it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm excited to promote this more. I know we have a few different videos that we'd like to do, so hopefully we'll do more. Ranking all the covers. Anitha, how was your experience of reading this for the first time?
Okay, first I have to, thank Alan for introducing both Tchaikovsky and this series to me. I mean, when I joined Discord, when I found BookTube initially, he just reviewed Guns of the Dawn actually in June 2021. I really liked his review. I immediately picked it up and I loved that book. And I wanted to read more by this author. And he immediately announced Shadows of the Apt read along, and I didn't even hesitate. I was like, okay, I'm ready. And oh my god, I understand why people hesitate to pick this up, because they think there are insects, especially with Children of Time. People think it's there are insects in this series. So I make sure to explain to them clearly that there are no insects, only humans took on that attribute.
There's some.
They're giant insects, which to be fair is more terrifying, but they're very rare.
Yeah. So I am very impressed with the world building more than anything actually. I'm usually a character driven reader, but in Tchaikovsky books I don't care about characters. Everything else draws my attention, so I don't care actually who is there. Even in this book actually, this is a 10 book series and there are so many battles involved, people we love die, and but it did not break me anywhere actually. I could move on easily, and I could focus on the world building even till the 10th book. Even in the 10th book he completely introduced this new setting. Oh my god, it blew my mind. Only Tchaikovsky can do this. Every book, different setting.
Are we doing spoilers yet, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, we can, let's head into spoiler territory and just like spoil the entirety of it. So if you haven't read this series, do it, because all of the books, they're compared to so many other like long fantasy series out there, like Stormlight and Wheel of Time, stuff like that. They're not that long. Like overall, I'm sure you can fit all 10 of these books into like 3 Stormlight books. I mean, that's actually an exaggeration, but they're very.
That might not be.
That'd be interesting to see if the word counts like that. They're very bingeable, like what Ben was saying. They're very accessible. I do think that there's probably a lot of characters that are introduced in the first few books, and then that can be a little intimidating, but you get the hang of it pretty quick because you keep following these characters and you learn to love them.
As Miru was saying in comments, it is very accessible, very easy. Even first book, this kind of epic fantasy books sometimes they'll take time to introduce us to this world and characters. But in this one, from the first book itself, I that prologue was not there. That was supposed to be prologue actually. That was first chapter, when Stenwald along with his friends, went and found this wasp kingdom. This is first chapter in the first book, no spoilers. Ed. So I was so interested. I mean, immediately hooked me from that first chapter, immediately hooked me with that character Stenwald Maker. I mean, he grabbed my attention immediately. Very, very accessible, though there are different multiple Kinden, and he did not, ambush us with all the Kinden in the first book. He slowly introduced us to different Kindens. I really like that world building.
Yes, yeah. Every book we feel like we met a new Kinden or two, and just
or got a more in-depth explanation of the ones we already knew.
Yep, more in depth, more of the arts, more a little bit of lore dropping and history, like, and then it, expanding the map, like the map that we got in like the first few books. Like I thought, okay, everything's gonna take place in this area, and then in book 5 we go off the map. Into like, oh wow, there's a completely different like spider lands area and desert with the scorpions and this ancient Egypt kind of relic that survived to the modern day, like, and then there's the stuff like there's all sorts of things going on like north of the map. So and I love the gradual expansion of everything, but like the way it started pretty small, where we're really focused around just Collegium and maybe like Helleron and just like the lowlands focused, and that I feel like was a suitable starting point. Can we chat about the start for a bit? Like I love the start with Stenwald. Like we get this like actiony prologue where they're escaping. Was it Helleron at the time, or they were escaping some city that the Wasps were taking over?
It's Mina, I think, right?
Oh yes, that's right. Okay, they were like leading a resistance there. They escape, and then we pick back up, and it's just like Stenwald. I love this main character who's like a middle-aged professor, but he has like some like resistance in his background, like some military aspects. Like he's not afraid to get political, like just a completely badass kind of central character, and that he alone basically Collegium's like just becoming too lax, and that he alone is like worried about the rising Wasp Empire again. Like it was so tense, even the beginning, where I'm feeling like oh my god, people in Collegium like start getting prepared and listen to Stenwald, and like that they weren't listening, or that like it was making me so aggravated that like people weren't listening to Stenwald, and he had to just head off with his little band of students and his niece and try to like fight the Wasp and Helleron himself. But like that was such a cool opening book with that start and that premise.
And I think he was able to easily introduce us and get us invested in that conflict, right? I loved the vibes of just pre-World War II England in Collegium, combined with that whole Athenian vibe as well. Like, really interesting combination that worked really well, especially in the future books. I want to point out what Dominish is saying. So far, basically, in 5 Stormlight books, once we get Stormlight 5 out, we'll be able to fit the entirety of the Shadows of the Apt in here. So, like, this is going back to accessibility, like, so much. Hello, Dominish. Glad to see you here. I think Dominish was the one who actually, like, mentioned this to Alan and kind of got most of it started. So, credit to him.
Wow, thanks, Dom.
I don't know.
I think he finished by the time we started the first book.
Yeah,
he reviewed.
He had finished it all before we started, for sure. The start for me was a little rough. Mostly because I felt like not all of the characters got to shine as much as I would have wanted them to. Because we start out with like a gang of like 5 kids and Stenwald as the main characters, right? And that's really tough to do.
Yeah.
Is it 4 or 5? Because we have it's 4 because we have the Dragonfly, Tynissa. Yeah, it's 4. Totho and Cheerwell. Yeah,
Selma.
Yeah. Selma was the first one. He's the name I couldn't remember. Yeah. So imagine taking a bunch of college kids to go take down or prevent the rise of prevent prevent anything with an empire. That
Yeah.
is such a wild introduction. And the plot of it definitely gripped me, and like this whole concept of Stenwald trying to prevent the wasp was great. And then all the different stuff with like the barest introduction that we got to the apt versus the inapt, and then the different types of magic versus the different types of art, or magic versus the different types of art, was just captivating. I think specifically like the arts and stuff was really one of the things that captivated me within the first book, as well as, you know, the wasps and the rise of that.
Yeah, I love just getting a feel for the different arts and also the different kind of cultural outlooks of the Kindin, and sort of, you know, how their arts are just the way their cultures kind of develop differently and their cultural priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, beetles are very academic and mechanical and kind of stalwart, and ants are very communal minded and isolationist and military, and the dragonflies are, you know, elegant kind of fighters and flyers, and the flies are just, you know, smaller stature and hanging around the edges of society and working as messengers and things. Like, it was cool also just to feel like, you know, all these different Kindred have different abilities, but also different kind of perspectives on the world and cultures, and the way that they're like interacting as allies or as kind of enemies and positioning themselves. Like the wasps, it makes sense with their powers. Like, they are kind of OP with their murderous like sting ability plus their flying. Like, it makes sense that, you know, they would have imperialist, like expansionist kind of tendencies, like and kind of a superiority complex where they find themselves superior to others, and man, like, yeah, all of that establishing of the Kindin, just so compelling. And the mysterious moths who, you know, are living on their mountain but then come down, and they have their cool kind of magical things going on, and seer powers and night vision, and like so many different Kindin that we were just introduced to really in the beginning too.
Yeah.
And then he didn't
Actually,
go ahead, Anitha.
It's
Yeah,
Stenwald actually is one of my favorite characters in fantasy. He's not flawless actually. There are times where I disapprove of something he did. At the same time, in later books, that perfect, I'll talk more in spoiler chat, obviously. You know, he's not flawless actually. There are many times I disagreed with him, but that's such a perfect character for this. In the beginning, you know, telling everyone, you know, when nobody listens to him in this assembly. If you're new here, he's a college professor and he's also one of the ministers in this assembly, and nobody listens to him about this threat of wasps. And then he felt like an underdog actually, and from there the character growth he had, you know, and giving him few kids as agents and sending them to different places, in the form of that he introduced all these new settings and world to us. And going forward, actually initially it started with only 5 main characters, 6 main characters if we count Tissamon. And then in later books, actually, more than these main characters, I liked these other secondary characters. The way he brought those secondary characters into this main storyline and made us invested in them, super. I was super impressed with that.
Mm-hmm.
In every book I found one or two favorite characters for me.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Man, and then in book 2, Stenwald becomes the War Master of Collegium, and man, book 2 has some of the most memorable battle sequences of my entire reading life. Like, first we have the wasps just steamrolling an ant city state, and the ants are all confident they could resist, but the wasps come with Drefos and their new technology of war, and they just completely destroy an ant city state. And we see that from like inside and from Totho's point of view too. And like that was so thrilling, but also horrifying to see like the wasps just expand so easily and crush that ant city state. And now we're like, oh my god, like they're just an unstoppable power. But then later, Collegium is dealing with their old ant foe themselves. Like they're needing to like find allies against the wasp, and meanwhile, this old ant city state is coming to attack them, and it's like, oh my god, like you all need to work together to resist the wasps. But uh, those ants are stubborn, and I forget the name of that city state, like maybe to the west of Collegium that attacks Collegium. But the siege of
Ve-
Collegium.
Wes?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, I think it was Vest.
Vekinance.
Something with V.
Yeah, I like that is one of the most memorable, truly like battle sequences of that I can ever remember. Where Collegium is the city of academics and engineers, and they opened up to like
They
everyone can
don't
give
even
their ideas. Yeah.
they don't even have proper army. They just have these research people who are researching, nerds actually, PhD nerds who are
Yep.
researching on these different machines, and them providing those prototype machines to the army, to the defense. One of the most inspiring battle scenes I read
Mhm.
actually. Dragonfly Falling is one of my favorite books in this series. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
No, I'm right with you. Yeah, and there
I
was some harrowing stuff. They weren't totally successful. Like they were at first successful in pushing back the siege, but then finally the ants broke through. But between Collegium's defenders inside the city and getting a spider ally to come rescue them, like they ended up surviving. But like it was thrilling to watch them hold out for as long as they did, and then
Yeah.
finally survive. And man, and to have Stenwald be kind of validated in all this of like needing to get more on a war footing.
Mhm.
It was nice too. And then yeah, so
okay before before
yeah,
moving on
go
to
for it,
the
go for it.
spoilers, what is your favorite setting out of all you have seen?
Oh, I think we're in spoilers anyway, so you could just go for it to mention the
Yeah, we're
spoilers.
just go full
Yeah.
spoilers, just to
Okay,
clarify for everybody. We're
full
favorite scene,
spoilers.
let's go for it.
Okay, on the context of Collegium defense, while reading that, they not only provided those prototype machines, they also volunteered all these professors,
Mhm.
academics. And when each professor was dying, oh my god, that was heartbreaking. At the same time, I felt that surge of pride and inspiration while reading those scenes.
Yeah.
That was the moment I knew I was going to complete this series, and this is going to be one of my favorite series. When I was reading Collegium Defense, that was,
Yeah.
even later when those people broke down the gates and came inside, that strategy of, they were evacuating these Collegium people, they were evacuating each street, and they're burning down their own houses to attack those people who are coming inside, those streets. That was so inspiring. Oh my god, the emotions I felt while reading that book, I still remember that. It's been more than 2 years since we read that book.
Yeah. Fight for every street. Like that was intense. And I remember some of the theming, there was some sadness that I felt when the professors were dying, and then also when the professors were like volunteering their ideas, right? Like there's something immensely just saddening about people whose pursuit of their entire lives has been this peaceful pursuit of knowledge, and they're just simply trying to understand the world and explore the world with this
Yeah.
just curiosity and joy, and then turn that knowledge into weapons of war because they are forced to. And while yes, there was that sense of pride of, hey, we're gonna beat them back, and then they died, and
Yeah.
the sadness of what they were forced to do, and the sadness, like especially like the guy with
The
the sand
sandblaster.
blaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough scene for me, because it's just like this like, not only is you have the sadness of them twisting what they built over the years, but also just that loss of knowledge was also sad, which is just depressing to me. It's like so much was lost just from the defense of Collegium.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dominish, the submariner professor. I think that was later on in the series that he died.
Isn't that the one
No, no, no.
that
In
that
that
came
only.
back in Sea Watch?
No, I
He's-
think he died in Air War or War Master's Gate. I thought.
No, no, no. Dominish is right. Two professors die in Dragonfly Falling. One is submarine professor. The other one is this flying Iron Man kind of suits guy. So they both die. That was tough.
But didn't one professor who got lost in the ocean eventually? He was like he met up with Stenwald back when Stenwald started in Sea Watch and woke up as the prisoner.
Possible. The
Possible.
problem
Oh
with
my
how little
god.
known this series is, I cannot find a synopsis of the books easily. There's not even individual Wikipedia articles for them.
I didn't realize he was a professor actually. I thought he was some random guy. That was a good connection actually.
I think he knew Stenwald from before.
Yeah.
And they recognized each other.
Okay, but, sorry, Pete, go ahead.
Oh,
just an FYI out there, if you've read the books, can we we should just go out and start editing Wikipedia, creating Wikipedia articles for these books because they don't have them.
Yeah, Dom can't remember either. Yeah, it's tough with a lot of these details because so many little side characters.
Yeah, because there's three major battles of Collegium. One is in Dragonfly Falling, and then the other ones are in War Master's Gate and Air War, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think I could. Remember.
So it seems like we all thought Dragonfly Falling was pretty impactful. I agree with Pete that some of the main characters got a little bit short shrift in how they were introduced. I think a lot of people complain about Salma, not feeling like a fully developed character, and
especially Dragonfly Falling.
Same with Tanisa, not loving Shay's character, but I do think Tchaikovsky had so much plot to pack into this first 4-book arc that that was just a necessary kind of sacrifice. And when he restarted with book 5, I think he intentionally limited the focus to fewer POVs, exploring a couple of the main cast at a time for the next 3 books, and I think that's where you get the deeper character work.
I think he wrote first 4 books before even going to publisher. After that, he went to publisher. He must have got feedback to reduce the number of POVs. Totally my guess.
Yeah, it's entirely possible because
But I understand there are some criticisms, especially from Klaus, that there are too many POVs, there are too many, locations. But I did not mind that at all. I was completely with the storyline, and I did not find it difficult to track so many POVs.
Yeah, and by the time Salute the Dark is coming around, and a lot of these plot arcs are coming to a head with climactic sequences, and there's 7 different climactic sequences happening all around the map. That was a thrilling kind of book for me, and I also didn't mind that there wasn't so much character development. This series is just, it's not Realm of the Elderlings. It's just it's not going to scratch that same itch where you're just marinating with a couple characters in really complicated realistic psychology for long stretches, and getting
you're not gonna sit with them in a cabin in the woods for 300 pages.
So people are moving. Things are moving.
But it did there are character growth for many characters actually. It must have not what we expected, but there is character development except one character. I'll talk about that later in the books, 7, 8, 9, 10 kind of books. Let's just finish off 3 and 4. Third one, actually, for many people, 3rd is least favorite. I understand why. Actually, did not have big battle scenes. It's kind of slow. They just went on different on purposes. Side quests. What is that near? What is the Wasp City?
Let me pull up the map that I just found.
The Capitas, the wasp capital, Capitas.
Yeah, in that nearby that we went to one city with J on lake, which starts with J.
Oh yeah. Jerez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that setting actually, I loved that setting.
Yeah,
You know,
the skater
I
Kinden. Yeah.
yeah, Skater Kinden. Such a cool setting introducing, okay, we totally forgot, at least I forgot to talk about this. Every Kinden he introduced is parallel with our real life insects
Mhm.
actually. That was such a cool detail. Even in third or fourth book, actually, he introduced us to these water kind of beetles which form a bubble around them. Even we have apparently we have a real life insect like that.
That
I
does
did
that.
not even know until someone found a picture and posted it in Discord.
Yeah.
Actually, that's
And
such a cool concept.
Yeah, even like those spider kindin that live in the city that's next to Jerez that nobody knows about, that we never explored. Their whole concept of like gathering water bubbles around them as well, like the spiders and the beetles. That was just so many
Yeah.
cool things. Like this was an insect nerd's dream book. Like
Yeah.
I mean,
A disclaimer.
OG.
Disclaimer: there are no creepy insects until book 9. There are sometimes we see these big-sized dragonflies or big-sized beetles which are used in war. But initial 8 books, there are no creepy insects at all.
Wasps or not wasps? Mantis
Some
sequences. You're
some big
forgetting.
ants, some big ants
Yeah,
involved
they're
in the
big.
ant colonies.
I would say
Yeah.
the mantis sequences are probably creepy. The mantis
Yeah,
In the
that's
forest,
in 9th
yeah.
book, right?
sequences.
Yeah, that's in 9th book, right? I said until 8th book there are no.
That's in book 2.
I
2 or
don't
3.
remember
I'm pretty sure it's
seeing
2.
creepy
You mean
insects.
when they first visit the Dyrrachion, like the ghost mantis stuff?
Yeah, no. When Tissamon takes Tynissa to the mantis down south. That happens in like book 2 or 3. I
Yeah,
remember
but
because
that's
I was
not
very
noticeable. Like, yes, that is part of the
It's
world
not
building
noticeable.
where this is a ritual.
They
Yeah.
literally have an acid trip and mantis things threaten to eat them. How is that not creepy?
Yeah.
Giant praying mantises.
Okay, see, my point is, okay, people who are freaked out are more scared of these small crawling things than giant things. So I am telling in that perspective.
Yes.
But you are right. I agree.
I wouldn't like I would say there was an element of it that was entertaining and like, oh my gosh, you're tripping on mantis acid and having this religious experience from the mantises. And with me, like with the whole mantis stuff, I think the mantis stuff was like it was probably my biggest disappointment with everything, because I feel like we didn't get enough time with it in the first 4 books. And then Heirs of the Blade was, while being Tynissa focused, I still just wasn't satisfied with it. I don't know why. I don't know what I wanted from the Mantis stuff, but I remember the first book, I was like, oh my gosh, this Tessamon guy, really cool. And his daughter being like half Mantis, half Spider. That's really cool. I want to see more of this.
It did pay off pretty well towards the end of the series, though. I can't remember if it was in Air War or War Michigan, but when the kind of mantises are coming out of the forest and they're like fighting and putting up a last stand, and like their way of life is kind of crumbling around them, like that. I think that had a good payoff towards the end with the Mantis society on the whole that had still been surviving. But you're right, the Dyrrachion probably didn't have great payoff, but it was key to the whole climax of the first 4 book arc with the box, the black box, and like
not the Dyrrachion was fine, but like just exploring the Mantis culture in general outside of the Dyrrachion, and just introducing his daughter, Tissamon introducing his daughter to the culture, was like, it felt too fast for me.
Yeah. And speaking of too fast, the Blood of the Mantis slows down. Like, I like when series kind of have varied pacing a little bit. Like Dragonfly Falling, so intense with those battles. Like to go on a side quest where we could catch our breath a little bit, go to a new setting by airship. By the way, like that's so cool to travel by airship. and like hang out in this town with Skaterkinden, and things are mysterious, and like that was cool. I like Blood of the Mantis. It's also like really short, so it's like, it doesn't bog down in this kind of side quest for too long, but how it ends up going down was pretty exciting, with like this auction for the box, and then the auction just goes haywire as like people are like murdering each other. And who ends up with the box actually after? It was the mosquito, like, who
I'm
worked
pretty
for
sure it's the mosquito, because
yeah.
the mosquito has it, and then Tissamon destroys it in the ring.
Oh, right at the end of that was an awesome
Oh God, yeah.
climactic sequence where like Tissamon is fighting like in the pit with that other the dragonfly woman who Felice, or no, I can't remember her name. Is it Felice? And like them fighting back to back there, and like they were both so like depressed and like traumatized, but like finding each other, like some solace in each other, and fighting together there. And like right at the end, Tissamon kind of like breaks the box and
kills the mosquito,
destroys like Utebri's plans, and then the book ends with like him being in the box. Like, so cool. That was so cool.
Like that's one of the things that's blazed into my memory. One of those scenes. Just
okay, since we are talking full spoilers, I want to talk about Tissamon and Tiny's arcs. Tiny's arc is the most disappointing to me in the book. I really liked her when she was introduced in the first two books. As Pete said, I really expected more from the character, especially after fourth book. Tissamon is not there anymore. So I really expected more from her, but I was disappointed to see her arc in seventh book, Heirs of the Blade, right? That was the seventh book. I understand, addressing her depression. She found her father and immediately lost her father after forming the bond in front of her eyes. That too, they trapped her father by kidnapping her. So she was disappointed in her own abilities that she got trapped, and she watched her father dying in front of her eyes, and she also lost the person she loved. She lost Selma. So I understand the depressing, but there was no improvement after that. At the end, when she was fighting, when she got the opportunity to fight her father, Seda was controlling Tissamon zombie thing. I was happy actually. Okay, at least she tagged along with Che. At least she got the opportunity to fight with Tissamon, and maybe I thought, okay, after killing that zombie, she will get out of the depression. But okay, this is I liked and disliked both at the same time. At the end, actually, in Mina, right, Stenwall dies. At the same time, him dying took Tissamon out of the zombie state. So he goes along with Shenwal to heaven on hell, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I loved that scene,
Yes, so emotional. Yes.
Yeah, Stenwall's friendship bringing Tissamon out of the zombie state, such a good connection. I love Tchaikovsky for that connection. At the same time, Tynisa lost the chance to win against Tissamon. And because, during the middle of their fight scene, Tissamon suddenly dies. So Tynisa stops her fight and she was Seda kills her. That part I did not like actually. Same scene, I loved one part and I did not like this part actually. He used Stenwald friendship to, kill that Tissamon's zombie. But Tinisa, maybe if she had killed Seda and got out of that, even if she was dead after that, I wouldn't have minded. But there was no point to that character,
Yeah. We could the series could have done without Tinisa probably. We wouldn't have lost too much. Tchaikovsky, that's the main character that he did the least with overall, I think. Yeah.
It's a toss up between Selma and Tynissa. I think Selma has a better ending to his story with his sacrifice. But at the same time, I wish we could have gotten more of Selma on the screen.
Yeah,
I feel like there's
definitely,
a
definitely.
lot
Yeah,
he did off screen and a lot of character development he had off screen
yeah.
that was like,
I
gosh.
like the trope though of a kind of like, you know, exiled prince who kind of inspires like a new like underdog band of allies
Yeah.
to resist. Like that was so satisfying when his kind of group successfully kind of fought off,
Yeah.
you know, against the wasp, and then his like people founded a new free city
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
like he left a real mark and continued to impact the books later. I had important plot functions early on, so yeah, I would have liked more time with him, and you know, maybe at the expense of Tanisa would have been good. Like Tanisa, like so much is going on plot wise through all the books and impactful, and that a less impactful character didn't hurt my experience too much.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right, Anitha. Like it was not as satisfying, and her ending not particularly satisfying either. But
Yeah.
But Che's,
yeah,
we were both going to talk about it. So this is someone I loved. This character, I always loved Che from the beginning all the way to the end. It was someone I was rooting for and felt close to, and I actually personally don't mind, and maybe even kind of like in an epic fantasy book, a character who's not very competent or like not very dynamic, especially early on. Like Che is not really adding much to the group. She has like no skills that she's adding. She's just kind of like needing to be defended and saved time after time. But like, I love that she starts there, and then in book 5 really comes into her own as she discovers the power of the old power of the slugs. Who are was it Slugkindin?
Yeah, it was the Slugkindin.
Yeah. So, and she now has this power. She's coming into her own. She's gaining confidence, like socially too, and kind of getting close to Thalric. Like, and then
wild.
Yeah, wild, but really interesting to me. I like that kind of cross-racial relationship, and so like, man, I really liked Che. Some people have complained like, oh, she's useless, but like, I don't need every character in my epic fantasies to be extremely skilled and competent and the center of all the action. Like, it's very realistic also to have someone who's just kind of like average and normal, and but she also had a good heart and was brave and willing to take risks and very sensitive. Like, she was a romantic too. Like, she got really attached to who was her moth boyfriend at the start. But like, she felt totally in love like with the moth in the beginning. It's like I don't know, this character to me was just so easy to empathize with and root for, and like to follow her arc was really satisfying.
In seventh or eighth book, I don't exactly remember, when they're looking to go to Dragonfly Kingdom, they goes to Mina and asks help from that smuggler guy. I think that guy or one of the smuggler guys comments to Thalric that I thought you're the lead and you're using her as your girlfriend, but I realized that she's the lead, you are just following her, something like that. That was such a good description of everything that happened to Che's character in the later half of the series. Actually, she took control, she found her inner strength, she took control, and she drove that arc, actually, that entire Inaptic Indian arc.
Yeah,
I really like that. As Ben said, not every character doesn't have to be full of action, full fighting badass character. And yes, there are times where I was like, oh no, Che, you are getting into trouble again. Yes, there are times I felt that. At the same time, I really liked how she found her own space, in this epic series. She found her own voice without being loud, if I can say that. Also, since we already talked about Che and Thalric being together, this is one of my issues in this series. It started with Stenlord's relationship with that
The
student.
Spider Girl. Yeah,
I
that was
did not
weird.
like that.
No.
I mean, see, to be honest, I should applaud Tchaikovsky for executing that trope without being creepy, because
Yeah. True.
he did not make me comfortable. He did not make me uncomfortable. I understand why Stenwald did that. I understood. Obviously, she is a spy. That's why she did. But I understood why Stenwald got into that relationship as well, knowing that was wrong. He was alone and he needs someone to share. Completely understand. I did not, though I did not like it, it did not make me uncomfortable. Only thing, uh, things started bothering me when the trope got repetitive in later books, actually.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
think.
that like how far apart Thalric and Shay were in age. Like I don't think they were so far apart in age, and that was also like a slow kind of burn in terms of like a
Yep.
starting a relationship. Like it took them a long time of being in some very sticky situations. And I do think when two people are like needing to help each other survive and fight in really tense situations, like it also makes sense that they might grow
Yeah.
attached romantically. Like I Thalric was a
Romantic bonds
character.
through trauma.
Yeah, yeah. Thalric was a character I loved from the very beginning, and seeing his
Mhm.
internal conflicts of like being a Wasp patriot, but then kind of being thrown out by his empire, and then
Mhm.
like he's just lost. His whole identity is just wrapped up in Wasp patriotism, and now
Yeah.
he has to figure everything out anew, and he has to maybe rethink his ethics and morals, and realize that the other races are
Okay.
good people too. And so like I loved all that, and him meeting Che was it was such like an odd relationship that really it worked for me really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
One issue for me, sorry, Pete, just one last thing. One issue for me with Talrik and characters like that is, first of all, Talrik is we can see that Talrik is a good guy. He's struggling with doing these violent things. He's doing it because he's loyal to Empire. Later, when Empire left him alone, he came to the good side. But my problem is he did that only when Empire left him. If Empire continues to, um give him promotions or hire him or employ him, he should have continued to be, do violent things, everything. He should have continued to be loyal to the Empire. So it's tough for me to love a character like that. Of course, I love Talrik, but at the end only. In the beginning, I cannot say I love him.
Mhm.
I
Well,
understand him, but I don't love him.
I'll say that like coming out of the Wasp Empire for him was like coming out of a cult. Like he
Yeah,
was supremely isolated within the Wasp ideology, that there was no way for most people in order to not espouse the Wasp ideology, you have to be exposed to something different to the Wasp ideology. And Thalrok was so slowly over time, and then once he was dropped from the Wasp, he got this just like crash course in how oppressive they were. Um, that it's that really like broke him over the books that he was dealing with that. Um, I think I really love Scarab Path is my favorite book in this series. Air War is pretty close because of some of the conflicts there with just airplanes, but Scarab Path like was such a breath of fresh air after Salute the Dark, and just becoming more character focused. And Cheerwell's story was very gripping in Scarab Path. Like
yeah,
there and just like her development. I think there were a number of times in the series where Tchaikovsky pleasantly surprised me with where he took the plot. And in Scarab Path, I saw Cheerwell and Thalric getting close, and I was kind of worried that he was going to have a Cheerwell finds herself because of this dude that she falls in love with. That she was going to only find her inner strength because of Thalric or whatever, and he didn't do that whatsoever. And I was so glad that he didn't. it was so
It
beautiful.
was opposite actually.
Yeah, exactly. Because he was like
Yeah.
trying to hold her back.
Yeah.
Like, what is this inapt stuff? What the heck is going on? I don't understand this. And that continues throughout the entire series where Thorek has to learn to trust her because he knows he can't understand what the heck is going on with her. And kind of serving as her it was interesting seeing him serve as her translator to a certain extent to some of the more apt people that were talking to her and were like, this isn't how the world works. And he was like, so I've seen some weird stuff. I'm not so sure.
I don't think he was comfortable with that inept, all that stuff, or he
No.
understood even at the end. He was with her because he found stability there. That's all.
Yeah, he absolutely didn't even understand it, but he was still able to communicate that there was stuff that he had no idea what was happening to other apt people, to be like, look, I know I've been in your shoes, just go with it, it's fine.
My God, there's so much going on in Skyrapath that is interesting. It's like there's the Thalric and Chase stuff. There's also like the little group of professors that came to the city Canafes, that's the name of the city, and they were like, they've always been studying this stuff and now finally get to go here, and they're kind of like out of their depth. And then like Totho comes with his mercenary group, and he's he wants to prove himself to Che. Like he's
arc in that.
Yeah, he still thinks like that he needs to prove himself to Che, and there could be a chance like that's a very touching arc. Like that unrequited love is driving him, and also like the racism that he like was shown back at Collegium, but now he's able to shine as under Dreyfus and as the leader of this new group. And he's there, and then there's the old kind of Canafes army that's like a very old-fashioned army that's being led by that really cool
what was his name?
Cool guy. But I love that like he fell in love with one of the professors that was there, and like was doing all sorts of stuff to try to court her. But like he was this throwback warrior, and like it was so sad watching that old style army just get destroyed by like the wasp technology and the scorpions who were coming, and they were not prepared for that at all. And then but then it was them and Totho's like new technology helping to defend the city that was in that amazing climactic battle sequence that happened in the city with the bridge and the defense of the bridge. And man, that's another memorable whole set piece that really sticks out in my memory.
What is that guy's name? Army General of that Canafes. We'll see him later in the Air War as well.
Give me a second.
That's such a cool character. Ailes or something like that.
It starts.
Okay. Anyway,
I want to say it's like Amon or something, but I'm trying to find a list
think
of
you're
characters.
right. I think you're right. Anyway, talking about what Ben said, unrequited love. Toto realizing whatever he does, Che is not going to love him is just heartbreaking. He always thought that he doesn't have anything. There was this racism stuff. At the same time, he's a nobody. That's why Che did not love him. That's what he thought. That's the even reality. It happens. Men assume actually instead of just asking women. Then when Che is with Talrik, he was like, that's when he asks and he realizes, I achieved this much. Now I am this almost a king of this, whatever the back alley island he was in, where he was making weapons. He was almost a king right there. Even then, Che is not interested in him. That's when he realized. At the same time, I know many people did not like Toto's arc in Seal of the Worm 10th book, but I really liked him, especially he knows that Che doesn't love him. Even then, he chooses to go after her. He goes into the worm, and he's the one who destroys that worm.
Yeah.
I really loved that arc. I mean, it was so sad. I agree. I understand it's sad, but I really like the total arc, how it came actually.
Amnon.
Amnon. That's right. Amnon.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's close to
That's one of those like
just an
cool
extra
new. that's just one of those like cool new side characters that he introduced, in book 5. Like,
Yeah.
we're just always getting new, interesting characters as the world
Yeah.
expands.
Yeah.
But I'm with you on Totho's arc. I thought it was touching and poignant, and that he never really could let go of being in love with Che, like, and that he sacrificed himself at the end for her and for everyone, and just doing what's right, and not being so selfish. Like, for a while, he is trying to like kind of rebel against like collegium and like the Beatles
But
society
what
that kind of spurned
but
him. Like,
what
so
he did with that, what is that, Ben? That arrow thing he invented.
oh, the Snappo, the gun, really?
Yeah, Snapbo.
Yeah.
Because of that, many people got killed actually. So for
Yeah,
what
yeah,
he
yeah.
did, it's a very fitting end.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree that like he basically had to die in the end anyways, because there was no coming back. Like, it's I'll be interested to see when Alan gets to this book, to book 10, if we could possibly compare Totho and Ziani from the Engineer trilogy. That will be very interesting, because they're both people that cause a lot of death through their manufacturing.
Totho, though, at the end of book 4, did something really cool where he basically, prevented the chemical weapons against the bee city.
Yeah.
He basically set those off and killed some of Dreyfus's like assistants and hurt Dreyfus. And
Yeah.
after that, wasn't Dreyfus kind of like his assistant? Like, he kind of like
Dreyfus is still the big boss.
Yeah.
But he just accepted him as the son, actually. Dreyfus loves Toto, as because he doesn't have anybody who is capable of the same knowledge. So he's like adoptive son.
It is wild that like you attempt to kill a guy and then he's like, my son. What a screwed up relationship.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Did Stenwald meet Toto after that? After 4th book?
I don't think Stenwald ever. He might have met Dreyfus once on the.
No, not Dreyfus. Totho.
I don't know if he met Tothos.
I remember. No, I think Totho sends that design of Snapbo to Stenwald. Stenwald was very disappointed that he went into this wrong direction. That was a touching scene.
But he recognized the necessity of having to keep going. I will also say the development of the Scorpions, it's really interesting because Scarab Path as a book is like completely necessary for the development of Air War, which is one of my other favorite books. That like, okay, they had to do all of this to dominate the Scorpions and get access to the gas. And I don't think it was
the oil, yeah.
Beginning. Yeah, the oil in the middle of the desert. It's just like they had to be able to get there, and so they could actually develop these engines to be able to use it. It was so interesting. And then we have the contrast of like in Air War, you have multiple different types of machines. Some are like the long range ones the Wasps have, and then there's also the ones that Collegium have that operate completely differently. And then speaking of another scene that just is embedded in my memory is when the Lightning was released at the end of Air War, when this crazy man's plan just blows them all out of the sky. It's like, oh my god.
Oh, amazing climactic moment. Yeah.
Battle at the end of Air War. That whole episode is such, like sitting at the edge of my seat kind of moment. So good.
He did amazing stuff in that book with POV and perspectives, because he took us to the flies who were kind of like being subjugated as workers, like in the Wasp Empire, and we saw the flies get recruited to work in the planes as like bombardiers or gunners, and like they're still patriotic and they're like, but we root for them kind of, even though they're kind of fighting for the Wasps. And so we see like from inside the Wasp planes what's going on through their POVs, and we also know that like the allies have to like figure out how to resist them somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and with the allies like bringing in the fly pilots and like building new planes, and it was so tense, just this battle between the two kind of air forces. But I
Yeah.
loved how I still felt sad about the Wasp planes being shot down or defeated, like because we know we see their point of view too,
Those flies.
and yeah.
Yeah. The themes of loyalty and patriotism are so good in this book because these flies are actually slaves.
Yeah.
They weren't treated properly, but that's where they grew up, and their loyalty belonged to wasps. That is such I had to stop reading and I had to think about it. It was done so well. I mean, it was so complicated. It happens in real world as well.
Yeah. 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 Real.
Yeah,
Lots of
see,
Stockholm syndrome
see,
right there.
for us actually take Indians only. We were occupied by Britishers, so we fought in World War I and World War II along with Britishers. I'm not saying that is wrong, but we had to do it. We were involved, our army. It's the same thing. So this, though these flies were slaves, they had to fight with along with wasps, and that's where their loyalty belongs. They think it's. Do you remember at the end of it when all wasp flights were gone, one fly survives, and when they come to Dreyfus and Toto, that fly was so angry. We want to destroy Collegium. I mean, I felt so sad at the same time that I understand that character so completely. All her friends were killed by this Collegium. So sad. This is how wars work actually. It's never ending.
Yeah.
And Tchaikovsky just continued to deliver like creative surprises too. Like the Wasps had their secret weapon of like this airship that was full of like absolutely deadly like big wasps,
Honey,
insects.
yeah. Honey wasp,
Like
something. There is some
like
kind of name I forgot.
And yeah, and it was like mind controlled by that one guy because he had the talent for it.
oh, crazy stuff. Like I love the creativity and the action scenes that Tchaikovsky just continually employed. Like
Mhm.
none of the action scenes ever felt similar or repetitive, and every book felt so different with the action and
Mhm.
yeah, so good.
War
And
Master's Gate actually, sorry, Ben. War Master's Gate, until then, book was either focused on, all these Arctic Indian big battle scenes or inept sequences like those Drakian forest. But War Master's Gate is the combination of both Act World and Inept World, both in parallel with such a great scenes. Actually, one of my favorite books in the series.
yes, mine too. I love the alternating structure of that, where it's like half of it's taking place kind of in the Commonweal with like all of the inept stuff going on with Anseta and Che are trying to like they have their weird connection, and
Mhm.
but then half of the book is like spent back in like the occupied Collegium, and we get such a different kind of war aspect with this like post battle occupation kind of living with
And
that, and trying to be an underground resistance, or through stories and through just like secret resistance, and introduced even new young people in Collegium who are like the new like the Wasp student, who's one of my favorite like late series characters, who was like he had more loyalty towards Collegium and his new like college friends
yeah,
than he
see,
did
when
to
they
the
were
Wasp, and everyone was doubting him and thought he could have been a spy, and then he ended up being heroic, and I love all that stuff.
Mhm.
See, when they were introduced initially in Edward, I did not like the introduction of these new characters. But that's when I did not like Stenwald's character, but because he's not giving benefit of doubt to the
Yeah,
student, he was like he was adamant about let's arrest that guy. It's like old politicians who are prejudiced actually.
yeah.
Perfect. He became that. See, it's completely understandable because he spent most of his life being scared about wasps. He doesn't trust them at all. At the same time, who is that guy who is the assembly main minister? Stenwald is the one who elected him. That guy
Uh,
stops Stenwald actually from arresting this kid.
I don't
he
remember
he,
his name.
he got good character development.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
really
yeah. Solid side
when
character. Yeah.
Yeah, when later in War Master's Gate, when Colosseum was occupied, he goes to make peace negotiations and they kill him. That was very sad scene,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, but talking about these new characters, I initially did not like these new characters, but from ninth book, I started liking them. Actually, that's such a good, introduction of those characters ready for this next stage of the story.
And a new generation too, showing that even Stenwell's generation, he wasn't as progressive as he could have been.
Yeah.
And like there was this, was it a new Beetle, a young Beetle character? It was the friend of the Wasp college kid
Yeah.
who was like trying to stick up for him and wanted to be a more like progressive voice in Collegium. Like he didn't want them to crack down so much on defense, but then he kind of learned that he had to be more pragmatic like that was fascinating to see,
Yeah.
him having to learn to be more pragmatic while also, his idealism is a good thing to kind of move society forward a little bit, where it's more
Yeah.
accepting and more just diverse and everyone can kind of live in harmony together. I love that the series, like that younger generation was introduced to kind of push their whole lowland society and into a better place going forward.
Yeah, that I also really like those sequences with that, of just like the young idealism and almost naivete of just like, hey, I want to include this guy, but also like meeting the realism of war up against Stenwald's wasp paranoia that has been beat into him by everything that has happened before. That those two coming to a head was a really, really good plot line with how they kind of like, especially how the young Beetle changed.
And there was an awesome, in that book too, there was an awesome Wasp general that we followed, who was like an old guard, like patriot Wasp, but like respected Stenwald and like never got the chance to fully go to war with him. But I loved like when he met Stenwald, and like I really loved just that Tchaikovsky gave us like little minor POVs just to get every perspective on all these conflicts, that it was never just like one-sided, where we could just view like the Wasps as this monolithic like evil other. Like everyone was humanized and given understandable motivations, and came to like characters basically like on all sides of everyone. Like even like the Veccan ants, like there were a couple of them that got sent on the Conophase mission, and they ended up kind of growing and growing attached. Like I love that Tchaikovsky like seemingly went out of his way to make like get us attached or make us empathize with almost every type of Kindin and side of the conflict.
This Wasp general actually character, I felt he is very parallel to Talrik. Same actually, he's not completely violent. He's loyal to his empire. At the same time, he's also, I did not like that he betrayed spiders. That was very sad actually. All spiders die. Like he's in relationship with what is that spider main character name who dies in Sea Watch?
I know who you're talking about.
Yes. He was like in like, has he ever in a relationship with the spider woman?
His mom. That guy's mom actually.
He was influenced by someone else far away. I forget what the influence was, but it was like he was convinced that the spiders were gonna betray him.
Sends a message. Seda sends a message to betray spiders, so he'll kill. He's not influenced. He receives an order, so he kills all spiders, but he's guilty about it. But later, this is the guy who stops all deaths actually in Seal of the Worm. He was like in Seal of the Worm, like all worms come up and attacking everywhere, wasps, in every place. And this is the guy, I think, who stops, okay, don't attack those guys. And they all united against worms.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was, you just brought back, I had forgotten about the spider allies with the wasps towards the end, and then Seda was so paranoid against spiders that she told,
understandably, they were going to betray her anyways.
Yeah.
Not
So
That's something
see,
that
yeah.
was
not
confirmed.
sure. Both are waiting who is going to betray whom actually. So we cannot confidently 100% say that spiders would have killed them if they did not.
They were waiting. They were waiting for the right opportunity. But she was disgraced anyways, so expendable to the spiders.
But it is so sad, if I
There were
said, because her
Yeah.
son died, her entire family died. Now she also died. What is her son's name? Stenwall's friend.
You're asking the wrong person. I'm not a names person, and
yeah, he
Something
was
with
a really
T.
cool character. Like he was one of the spider princes, and
Hmm.
he came to Collegium's rescue in
all the way
Dragonfly
back.
Falling.
Yep.
And
Some
but then he wasn't to be trusted though. Like but he was like at least a bridge between like Collegium and the spiders.
Mhm.
What was his name? How did he end up
T. He
dying? I can't
dies in
remember.
Sea-Watch because Sea-Watch, both Stenwald and that guy, this both of them goes to get this underworld prince from that new city Selma built, or
Yeah.
that butterfly girl built. So that spider guy wants to take him. So I think Stenwald kills him. One of them has to kill. They know each other. Even
Oh
Stenwald
yeah,
felt
yeah.
sad, for killing him.
Yep. And then the spider matriarch is very angry at Collegium and Stenwald for killing him. Yeah. That was another interesting sad part. Like I like that spider character. I wanted him to continue to be allies with Stenwald and
You know,
yeah.
as Pete said initially, with respect to Mantis, I am also little disappointed with the Spiders arc actually, because in the beginning, first two books, spiders are described as this well played this of this game, but they end up everyone die. Yes, Tianis,
Yep.
Tianis, yeah, starts with T. I'm really, it's a little disappointing.
Yeah. Well, at the same time with the spiders, they have so many rules to their game that nobody else plays. Right? So the game that they're playing is not the one that they're familiar with. Right? So they're familiar with all the rules and everything that they deal with in their own society, but once they go outside, it gets more complicated.
And their game is pretty much like on the periphery of the main conflict in like the lowlands with and the wasp. So yeah, I feel like we could get a whole different series just taking place like
Yeah.
in the Spiderlands, like with and so yeah, I agree that was not developed too much, but I'm kind of glad too. Like we got such a tight 10-book series that if he tried to develop everything super well, like it would have been just a much more sprawling series. Like he develops the Commonweal actually a lot more in the short stories. So like in the first two short story collections, most of those stories actually take place in the Commonweal, and a lot of them like before the series like ever started, like after the main like long war between the Wasp and the Dragonflies. Some of it takes place during that war, and then some kind of between that and the start of Empire in Black and Gold. But those stories like flesh out the Commonweal in a cool way. But like I like that that's like not part of the main series because that's all very peripheral to the main plot. It's like he could have probably done the same thing with short stories in the Spiderlands to flesh that. I don't think he did. I haven't finished all the short stories though. There's still like another book to go.
Yeah. So yeah, there's there's one that's written by him and one that's written by a bunch of other people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have Spoils of War that I need to read, and then I have Time for Grief on its way. And then what are the other? I know there's more. The other one is
something about shores.
Love of Distant Shores, and then The Scent of Tears, I think, is the other one.
Yeah. I have all of them. I eventually want to try to read every single book published by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So they're yeah.
Oh, so Love of Distant Shores also connects with Echoes of the Fall, it looks like.
I read
So
one
whenever
short
we read
story.
that.
I read one short story which was there at the end of War Master's Gate. It is about. It is about. Do you guys remember in War Master's Gate there was a plane which was crashed in that forest between. What are those?
Yes.
Oh, those crashed like right next to the Seal of the Worm, right?
Not exactly seal of the worm between those forests. Um, what are those forests beside those ant kinden city?
But it was in the Commonweal forests.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, it's not Commonwealth Forest. It is
Oh, you're talking about
above
the
north
like
of
where
Collegium.
not yeah, they're Nethion near the
Oh.
moth and wasp kinden things, like slightly north of like where Prince Salme is. Princess Salme
Ethereum,
is.
Nethian. Yes, Ethereum, just beside San, just above San,
Yeah.
where that
Okay.
entire War Master's Gate
Okay. So the short
happens.
story was about that plane.
That plane, I mean, what happened before the crash and all. I
Nice.
mean, they found one guy who survived from the plane crash, right? He goes crazy. So it's about that.
Nice. That'll be fun.
Can we talk about the Sea Watch for a little bit? Like
Yes.
Please.
this is
I
by
want
far the strangest book in the series because like it just does something completely different.
Mhm.
Like we're all of a sudden we're like under the ocean. I loved this. I loved that this was just like so completely unpredictable for like where the series would go. Like I'm with Stenwald under the ocean discovering new Kindin who like live underwater and there's whole society under here and there's like political factions and we're really lost along with Stenwald as he's trying to like get the lay of the land, like learn who the different political players are. Like it is confusing, but I think that was like very intentional and we're learning along with Stenwald and he's kind of meeting an like a more age appropriate kind of romantic interest and I liked
Even though
that.
it's a little bit like this is like the second time that he kind of did like, is this a magical influenced romance?
Okay, I have unpopular opinion. In the beginning of first 200 pages of Sea Watch, I did not like it. From then, once they entered that sea, that part, the world building, the setting, oh my god, beautiful. The way Tchaikovsky explains that each crab, those kingdoms, the setting, the colors, oh my god, I could imagine everything, and it was so beautiful. But
Was it that
initially,
long? Was it that long initially before we got under the sea? Like in my memory,
Yeah.
yes,
like we're
200
just
pages.
under the sea to
It took a
start. Like,
while to
200
get to under the
pages.
sea.
oh wow.
Yeah.
That
Because like
see
there
initially
was like the fly family that has their boat that Stenwald
Yeah,
was
the
like
smugglers.
friendly with and like so I guess in my memory it's all under the sea, but I guess there was a lot
Yeah, there
I
was a
don't
little bit of
remember
a
from that.
plot
see
of
Yeah.
like them
initially in the
spotting
assembly
stuff.
initially in the assembly one of the ministers complains about these ships missing, something is going wrong and all.
Hmm.
What I did not like is Stenwald is one of the victims of that in the beginning of the book. Actually, he warned about wasps, and nobody listened to them. He had that experience. Actually, he fought for so many years. Now he got into power. He is one of the powerful ministers. This minister, poor guy, is warning that something is happening, something is going on, but Stenwald doesn't give him time at all. See, I understand he is worried about Che. Actually, he doesn't know what is going on with Che. He is worried about Tiny Sam, so he's a little distracted. But he still, after going through everything what he has experienced, Stenwald dismissing this guy, not giving him time at all. I did not like that. At the same time, I felt it's not consistent with his character.
Mhm.
You know,
That's okay though. I think I was okay with that because it shows him having blind spots. So like
Yeah.
he's not the ultimate wise sage. Like he has his obsessions and maybe he's right about some things, but like wrong about others. And that rings very true and is interesting to me. And yeah, maybe it makes it harder to just like love him and root for him in some moments. But I loved seeing his whole arc along the way and where he was wrong and that worked for me. And then, but watching him in Sea Watch, where he comes to learn about this whole society he didn't know existed, and then realize that like they could be allies and he should take this all seriously, like that then led to a satisfying place where like he's leveraging every little thing he can then to bring to bear against the Wasp. And they ended up having some payoff when those really powerful Sea Kindin ended up like fighting in like the Collegium
Yeah, they
battles.
sunk
Like that was
they sunk spider kindred ships. Actually, that was a
Yeah.
cool touch.
Yeah. Honestly, one of the things that's etched in my brain was when he was in the jellyfish, and like he's going across this giant deep sea, and you see like the kraken in the distance, and there's the deep sea kingdom that they're talking about, that this mysterious, just like, yeah, they'll screw you up, like that. Just image of the depth that is still unexplored is just etched there. And then some of the battle sequences when they're trying to resolve the throne is just still sitting there in my brain, of just them fighting through the towers and such.
That jellyfish, like there was like that was part of a Kindin, right? Or like that was
yeah. So that was like even a new, unique,
Everything is part of
symbiotic
a kingdom.
relationship.
and like
That was
that
his
woman like
jellyfish.
was getting like creepily attached to him, right? And like
Yeah, that was
she didn't
that
really
was
want to
his
let him
romance.
go. Yeah. But
The magic jellyfish lady.
yeah, and then I remember very clearly also a scene where he took one of the military like sea kindin up in a balloon, because like the sea kindin like think like they're so powerful that they could defeat anyone on land, and then he took him up on the balloon so he could see how big the land was, and like it, like he was shocked with like the reality of it. Like that was such a strong scene.
That was beautiful. That entire plot was great. Like them turning that guy's like ambition to be like, all right, look, like just the political maneuvering from, okay, you're trying to take the throne and take everything over. Let's like flip that so we can work together, and put the right guy on the throne. And look, you're not as strong as you think you are, but like we'll give you this if you really want to. We'll let you do that at some point. And the concept of, oh yeah, we can 3D print materials out of random stuff that's just like in the water was absolutely wild.
Yes.
3D printing is so wild. I was like, I could not believe. Am I understanding this right? Are they talking about 3D printing? I was so confused.
Yeah, and then it became such an advantage for Collegium that they like could get all these custom parts. Yeah, that was so cool. Like I loved the tech aspect, like the steampunk aesthetic, and like the way that tech quickly evolved throughout the series, and the changes that it brought to society and to war. And man, that was an aspect of this that kept it feeling so new and fresh and creative, and and it's also just different than typical epic fantasy, which is more in like Middle Ages kind of technological setting.
It would become a cool movie. Just see watch, even if they don't adapt entire series. Just that see watch arc. This prince hiding on the land, bringing him back. That arc will make a cool movie.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if they could adapt this. Like it would adapt, like from Wheel of Time and Percy Jackson, and watching some of this other stuff. Adapting long series is hard into TV, movie, or whatever, because the Hollywood has a short memory and has a short attention span. So just it's hard to get really long stuff like this adapted. More than likely, we'd probably get like the first 4 books if this were to be adapted. Maybe. But where was I going with this? The evolution of technology. That's right. That's where my brain was. I love that as a general theme throughout all this, and how like Dreyfos and Totho interact with that theme of just like, yeah, so war is the thing that really drives technology forward the most. And like how war drives technology. And we've seen that as well in our world, like how both World War II and post World War II really fueled a huge industrial advance for us. And then
Pete, your mom is in the comments.
Yes.
Hi, Pete's mom.
Yeah, I've actually like watched, like I was watching Percy Jackson with her, which is where her comment is.
How is your leg?
Oh, she's able to drive now. She's got a splint and everything on now, instead of just the whole big clunky thing. What's it called? Brace. Nope. Yeah, she's doing a lot better.
Okay.
On the road to recovery, very close to being 100%.
Okay.
So,
Can we talk about Excelsi?
yes.
Oh, that's
That's, oh my god, it's such a cool setting. It reminded me of, these Greek cities with white buildings, tired cities,
Mm,
and Taki is such a cool character. We saw
yes,
Taki's
her
amazing.
later. Yeah, I loved. And what is the
yeah.
character name?
Oh,
That
thanks,
Flight
Mom.
Indian. Yeah, he is such a good kid. What is the character name? Starts with L. Flight Indian
It's like
spy.
Laszlo or something, right?
Yes, Laszlo. Oh my God,
Mm,
I loved Laszlo. He's
yeah,
such
yeah.
a. He loves that Firekind girl. Where was this Laszlo introduced later?
Fire Ant.
Who?
Laszlo was from Sea-Watch because he was one of the
Yeah,
smuggling people.
yeah, yeah.
He was one of the smuggling
Ah,
pirates.
Stenwall sends him to um, Excelsi in Air War, just
Stolarno
as
specifically.
his agent. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
good to
Yeah, no,
know.
that was another new setting from the second half of the series that just kept making things feel fresh.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Solarno was
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, I
yeah,
love that place. I loved like
yeah.
the aeronaut society or whatever it was called, where you have like not only do you have people like Taki that have their also that's a snack Tchaikovsky. Why would you name a character after a snack? Side note. But Taki with her powered, and then you also have like the Dragonfly Kingdom of Exalsi that have their dragonflies, and like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and how that
You
was
know,
playing into like the whole Exalsi pirate atmosphere. It was so good. I could have spent so much more time in Exalsi for sure.
Oh
you
yeah.
Solarno
know, we
specifically.
did not talk about Seda at all. Initially when they killed that main empire and Seda is going to be next emperor, I mean, queen, I was like, oh my god, this psychopath is dying now. Good days. Then she turned out to be a bigger psychopath. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, and
One of those.
she was basically right at the end, like kind of like going forth with a kind of Holocaust like genocide
Mhm.
to be sacrifices for like blood sacrifices for
Yeah.
her magic, but like she never went through with that, and she by the end became more of a sympathetic character a little bit and becoming more conflicted and kind of feeling like more of a connection with Che, and their connection I think was affecting her. Like she ended up being a pretty interesting like antagonist, much more
I
so
think
than her brother, like Alvden. Like he was just like a dunderhead, like
Cookie
empty-headed.
cutter. Cookie
But like
cutter successor.
See, Seda
yeah,
started questioning her choices only after meeting Che, because even Talrik, she saw only Talrik loves Che and she's willing to protect her instead of Seda. That's when she started questioning her decisions actually. Until then, she was like, hey, I am the hero, I'm the best kind of mode.
oh my god, and Thalric, I forgot that he was like he became
Seda's
like
husband.
a slave consort to Seda, and like he was getting like his blood was getting fed on,
Yeah.
right? Like that was crazy. And man, but like Seda, like I think felt bad that Thalric wasn't like in love with her and kind of liked Thalric too at
How,
the same time. And I have some memories of that like
how did she
dynamic
die?
being
I
interesting.
mean,
How did she die?
I don't remember actually. Did she die?
Yeah,
That's the real
Did
question.
Tanisha
I don't
kill
know.
her before dying?
I don't remember. That's one of those things from the end. The end of the series. I just remember Totho killing the worm, like everyone stopping fighting. Like I don't remember how things ended with Seta.
See,
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
Seda,
survived,
Che,
right?
Tainisa, and Tissaman Zombie were there. Tainisa, Tissaman Zombie were fighting, and Tissaman Zombie goes away when with Stenwald. And Tainisa, did she kill Seda? Seda kills her actually. I don't remember if Che kills Seda or Tainisa kills Seda. Seda.
No, I don't know. I don't know. That's one of those things I don't remember from the end.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't remember because you're
That
talking
was
about at
yeah.
Warmasters at the end of Warmaster's Gate, right?
No, at the end of Seal
No,
of the
in the
Worm,
Seal of the Worm.
At the end of War Master's Gate, they just goes to Che Talrik Seda goes underground to that warm
That's
place.
right. Yeah.
Also, it's such a
I
very
thought,
like scary setting.
sorry,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought about to say the same thing when I thought I would hate the last book because that I have um phobia about anything crawling. I you know oh my god, I'll throw up actually, that kind of phobia. But and it was creepy actually whenever he was describing those warm things. I was like, you, but I ended up loving the book. Actually, it was my
Mhm.
favorite book. I mean I
Wow.
ran, yeah, I mean both. It reached up to Dragonfly Falling for me. When I ranked, I put Seal of the Worm as number one. Actually, I loved it, every aspect of this ending. How this at the end, how they resolved the war, everything. The way he concluded the entire series, it was fantastic ending.
There was a
Complete.
really new, interesting antagonist villain who is the general, the very charismatic ant general of the I think the Sarnesh ants, and like he was very ambitious, like he was a scary kind of antagonist that was like supposed to
I
be,
have no recollection of what you're talking about.
I
and then
vaguely recollect it. Yeah. Yeah.
he
Keep
was
going.
no, I just remember him being like this very threatening figure throughout this book, and he had some people tortured, like one of the flies that was working with
Ah,
Fenwald was tortured, and I think
Yeah.
the
Laszlo
fire,
again.
yeah,
I'm
no,
pretty
not
sure. No, no, it
maybe
wasn't Laszlo.
Tibero, maybe Tibero,
Yeah,
mhm.
because it was a girl, right?
yeah,
That flight Indian was tortured. That was sad. I was so angry. And the guy was dead, I think. Stenwall's agent. I was so sad. That guy, Thorn Kingdon.
Oh
yeah,
yeah, the guy
the
that's all like
Thornkinded man.
B,
messed up face and
B.
everything like that.
What is that guy with B name? He goes to live with Butterfly Kingdon. That's New City with Salma.
Yeah, Prince Up Selma. Let me. Giving me the first letter is great because that means I can actually like go to figure it out.
And there was also, are you talking
Balkus?
about this?
Was it Balkus?
Oh,
Yes.
oh yeah,
I
and there
think
was also another, yeah,
Balkas
yeah.
survives, but there is also Stenwall's agent who dies in the fourth book or second book. That is Thorn Kingdon, who we met in that Helron agent. He was Thorn Kingdon. He is
Yeah.
different from Balkas, right?
Yeah. The Thornkindon, they died like he was driving or in one of these like mechanical vehicles that they drove to like rescue
Yeah.
people. I can't remember his name though, but was Balkis the Sarnesh ant who was like,
Yeah.
he left
Yeah.
Sarn and then was in Collegium, and then he was like, and then we're in his POV as like he was going back to Sarn, and he was
Kuto, yes, Neer. Thank you.
oh,
Good old-
man, there's so many
Yeah.
little
Do you
characters, but,
remember
like, yeah.
at the end, in the last book, do you remember Collegium? I think in the ninth book, Collegium guys hiding Spider Kingdon, saving them. That was such a good scene, actually. All Wasp Kingdon are killing spiders when Seda gave the order. So these collegiates were started hiding Spider Kingdon. I love that, actually. Oh my god,
Yeah.
Stenwald covered so many themes. Tchaikovsky. I started calling him Stenwald, my brain. Tchaikovsky, Tchaikovsky covered so many themes in this, actually.
Yeah. No, I think having World War like 1 and 2 as kind of a geopolitical inspiration like allowed him to reach for a lot of those themes, like racism and imperial genocide and like war under occupation, and just so being able to draw on like World War II history, I think helped to really enrich the themes. And but like, yeah,
I still think after the change of hands of empireship, when Seda became queen or empress, Wasp Kingdom getting out of collision was such a mistake in military perspective, because at that time they would have taken collision.
Yeah. It absolutely was a mistake, but like this is like to me is like super realistic because changes of power are fraught with craziness, and like when you have an entire city, slave city with the bees just all of a sudden become free because of all this other jazz that just happened, and you have so many other things and then I believe wasn't there a revolution in
Yeah.
China at the same time when
Yeah, it's like they want to consolidate power back in their like core
mm-hmm.
and like make sure like and then re-expand back out. They figure like very realistic.
They
Even
might not have been able to
even
hold
at the end,
collision.
even at the end, all these slaved cities starting, they have their own spy network, like rebelling at the same time. So
Yeah.
cool. Oh my god, I want to reread this.
Yeah, there's so much like depth, like because there's so many interesting things going on, like all over the map and on the peripheries of the map. Like I love that. Yeah, it and it never felt too sprawling. Like I always felt like I had a good handle on everything, but it wasn't. It there's a lot there because there's so many different little characters, different places, the different magic. Like man, it moves so quickly too, and the overarching plot felt pretty tight too, with just the Wasp kind of expansion. But then, like everyone needing to kind of band together at the end to fight against the worm threat that was just like going to take over, and everyone is going to become a giant hive mind. Like that was cool at the end to kind of be an impetus for everyone to like stop fighting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that worked really well for me.
That was such a good motivation for everyone to stop fighting with themselves.
Yeah.
And the way Stenwald ended the series with this big meeting, like temporary peace. That I mean, I can't even imagine how he got the idea for this motivation, this creating this entire new Kinden, warm Kinden. Oh my god! We should have talked.
He knew about it from the beginning.
We should have invited Tchaikovsky to this discussion.
I will say, Tchaikovsky, if you ever have to watch this, please. I'm going to be sending you lots of emails about, an interview. So, hi. Considering Anitha tagged Tchaikovsky on Twitter today, that'd be great. I need to get him. I need to get him like Blue Sky.
He is pretty active. When I reviewed this series, I tagged him as well. He watched. I'm thinking he watched it because he responded to me saying a nice review in Twitter.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
I need to be on Twitter. That's dangerous. Annoying. Anyways.
I would guess that he had that lore kind of built out from the beginning, that like this kind of worm threat had kind of just in the past been contained and sealed up. And
because remember, all the Kinden that were introduced in this series were mentioned in like book 1. Like
really?
book one or book 2, the slugs, the worms, and the sea Kinden are all mentioned. Like as these are mythical. Like so when Che was being introduced to all of the inapt histories, they talked about the assassin bugs, the mosquitoes, the worm empire, the slug. Like it was like 2 sentences, but they were all briefly mentioned. Very, very
interesting part is every time he introduced a new Kinden, like slug Kinden or mosquito Kinden, we think that, oh my god, these are so creepy, how they did genocide of this Kinden, and they end up being genocided by a different Kinden 500 years back. Always there is somebody who killed them, all these inept Kinden.
Yeah. The slug Kinden in particular were like kind of surprising to me because I expected, because it's called the Scarab Path, I don't know if we actually ever saw any Scarab Kinden. Like we saw the white beetle Kinden in the like Canna phase, but those weren't Scarab Kinden because scarabs are black, and I couldn't find anything saying that scarabs ever had like a white outer shell or something. And there was just a distinct lack of scarabs in Scarab Path because I was expecting the inapt beetle warlord Scarab Kinden to pop up, and then it was the slugs. It was such like a twist, and then there were these like shiny gold beings that were the slugs.
what those like slugs that were just like hundreds of years old that were just hanging out in the crypt beneath the city, like that was all so creepy.
Yeah.
And that was great stuff. I loved when we ventured down into those like ancient tunnels.
Yeah.
And
I think it would have been really funny if there was some lore about like keeping away the slugkin or something involving salt. Like line your doorways with salt or something.
Weren't they like hoarding water for hundreds of years, and then finally Che had them release it in the wave to like defeat the scorpions?
They had a lot of weather magic, and it was involving rain and water and whatever, and they released it for the wave.
Many books actually, they have big maps, but they don't use the entire map, all locations. Most of the plot is focused on one location, max two. But Tchaikovsky used every location, took us there, described that setting. You even used the underwater. He only left the sky part. Maybe some kind, maybe he should have used some kind of birds, but they're not insects, I think.
I mean, this is connected to Echoes of the Fall, which is shapeshifters. So theoretically, you could have shapeshifting high altitude bird people or something, or maybe you just have some more insects like some sky dragonfly kindin or something.
That is the same planet, you think?
It is. It
is the same planet.
So,
different like continent.
Not only so, Love of Distant Shores evidently involves something from Echoes of the Fall, but there are some kindin that show up in like the third book of Echoes of the Fall, evidently.
Ooh, so this continent is so interesting biologically because it doesn't have any like vertebrate animals. Like it's all insects and arachnids that are like the actual like animals that live there.
Yeah, I don't think they ever mentioned like mammals or anything.
Yeah, there's no birds, right? There's no mammals.
What they eat that much too, which is the most interesting thing, is that he doesn't talk about what they eat.
Yeah, it's not a very believable ecology, but it is cool. It's just like it's just insects and some other stuff, and they grow to very big sizes, and at some point like form some kind of like evolutionary bond with people, and they like evolved alongside of each other.
The only mammals.
Yeah. No, like it's not a very believable ecology, but for a fantasy series, like it works great.
I think it's entirely possible that it could be believable, but he just didn't talk about why it would be. Like he didn't go all Children of Time on us.
Yeah, like the biology is not the point of this world building at all. Like,
no, and there's magic.
Yeah.
I am totally distracted by Ben's bookshelves. They are so integrated with Pete's background. Those pillars. I was like, where is Ben sitting? I mean, it took me a minute to realize, okay, that is Pete's background.
Oh, that's really funny.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
The brown bookshelves blend in perfectly.
Oh, I love it.
Sorry, continue.
So, did you guys who was your guys' favorite character out of the entire series?
Oh,
Stenwald most of the times. Yes, Stenwald definitely, though he is flawed. But I also liked many side characters.
Same. Yeah, I love the whole cast.
Yeah, I definitely love Stenwald the most. I think that's kind of probably a common thing. Taki is definitely another huge standout for me, and everything surrounding that. Taki, Laszlo, anybody involving with the flying things, I just loved.
I think he added humor along with those characters. That's why they're very in this middle of this big battle, since Laszlo is such a comic relief.
Yeah. Man, Stenwald though, what a tragic and like a suitable end, like for the heart of this series, like to be going down fighting like back in the city that he started fighting in the very beginning of the series, Minor, right? Like he's still fighting for their freedom from the Wasps, and like just to be shot down by a random bullet, like it felt really realistic and tragic, and then he had the moment though where like he meets Tisman kind of before they move on to the next place. Like that hit me so hard. This is like really emotionally hard hitting for me there.
Stenwald's death was both like tragic and thematically appropriate, like very thematically appropriate, because like he almost had to die for Collegium to live, because for him to try to continue on in the world that they're trying to build would almost not be possible, because he would
hold it back.
Exactly, because like we see this in the 2 books in Air War and War Master's Gate leading up to his death, where he, you know, what we were talking about earlier with him being like, I don't trust the Wasp whatsoever. Like he wouldn't be able to live in a world where there was peace with the Wasps, because he would always think that there's always another thing.
While I agree with what you said, Pete, I felt that I wish he died in a better situation, because it was so unnecessary going after those planes when they were bombing them. I was like, come on, stay back. That his girlfriend is or / wife was warning him. Okay, wait, stay back. They're bombing us. Don't run.
Don't run.
Maybe he could have done it so like his death is a little bit more like integral to the battle. But it kind of worked for me where it was just like it happened just in the middle of this crazy battle and gunfight, and like, you know, soldiers get cut down randomly all the time in that situation, and so it was nice for a soldier, like someone in a battle, to not have just plot armor.
I'm not dissatisfied at all. I understand. It is
dying
not
a soldier's death.
But while he was not going to be the right person to lead Collegium like after this war, he was so the necessary, needed person. In that moment where the Wasps are rising, like he served such a heroic purpose, like to be in touch with like history and not just forget history, and like have a like some knowledge of the outside world and his experience,
and
like
he
not being so
unified all
isolated.
these kingdoms. He brought Ange to the fight. He brought all those kingdom together, and you know, gathered everyone and gave some kind of defense to Wasps at the right time.
Yes, a lot about Stenwald's story, like both Stenwald and Thalric, really surprised me, the way that he took the way he advanced their stories rapidly. I fully expected Stenwald to be the Cassandra warning against the oncoming Wasp Empire for like the first 4 books. And like turning him into the defense. I wasn't expecting the defense of Collegium to happen until maybe, but again, book 4. And it happened in book 2. Was just wild the way that he did this, and like made me appreciate the series much more. I'm just like, wow, there's so much more that I don't know what's going to happen. And that is a great feeling.
And in most of the books, actually, it did not feel like a one-man show, one man doing all this. There is big leader and all. It's a collective effort. You know, each character have specific role, and their role is important to the next stage of the process. I really like that. And what is your favorite setting?
Ooh,
that's hard.
I would say I probably just have to go with Canaphase. Like the idea of like an ancient city surviving into like the modern world, just because it's like way out and isolated and people have just ignored it. Like I loved that idea. Like it would be so cool if, you know, it just had me thinking about how cool it'd be like if we found like an ancient Egypt today that had just like survived and it hadn't really developed. Like I loved that setting so much.
Like it's actually pretty accurate I think in terms of that around World War II, right? Because like it's kind of a vibe that I have from studying some of history in school and stuff like that, and then from, you know, if you think about like the general Indiana Jones vibe where the world is still small, it's such a, like what you're saying, Ben, like it's such a great feeling. Like the whole concept of there are still undiscovered and unexplored corners of the world that we haven't reached yet and we don't know about. That's like Uncharted, Lara Croft, Indiana Jones. that sort of story is so, I don't know, it hits for me. Um, and yeah, I
But
one of these
yeah,
days.
I loved Collegium. I loved just the whole setup of the map and how there are these ant city states that
Mhm.
are kind of on their own, and even Capitas is an interesting, heart of the Wasp Empire, and the Commonweal, kind of this mysterious, kind of like East Asian inspired kind of setting, and the
Mhm.
XLC, the Mediterranean, and man, the whole map was just fun to
Yeah,
visit all these different places.
yeah.
I
Commonwealth,
Kind of Phase might have been my favorite, but I loved it all. I loved it all.
Commonwealth did not feel like East Asian to me. I could be. I should think about it. I don't know. Hmm.
I can see where it is. There's some general concepts that kind of feel with it, but I didn't get a good solid grasp of the
Mm.
architecture enough to,
Yeah.
if I like their concepts of honor and stuff like that kind of vibe with the
Yeah.
general idea of it.
Only concepts of honor, it felt like that to me. Other than that, architecture
Mm.
and all did not feel like that to me, especially all that nature,
It's kind of a
what do you call,
blend.
landscapes.
It's
Mm.
kind of a blend of like some East Asian and some other stuff, considering they live in the trees and stuff like that. So, but
And like their architecture, their buildings also had like cloth walls, and that kind of reminded me. Although I've read a lot of short stories that are set in the Commonwealth, so I
Possible.
I've
Possible.
definitely read a lot.
Yeah.
I've definitely read a lot more that's been set there.
yeah,
That might be affecting my view of it, but man, I just love what he did with the whole setting, and so I'm pretty pumped to continue on in this like universe with Echoes of the Fall.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
think
really
I
like.
liked.
Go ahead.
I think I liked
Don't take my.
Excelsi. At the same time, I want to shout out Jerez. I mean, the more I think, I did not appreciate much while reading the book, but after that, in the it stayed in my mind. I did not forget Jerez actually. Skater Kingdom, especially, I went to when I went to this Cambodia trip. What do you call it? Oh my God, there is one term. What is the term that people live on water?
Oh,
Trees we see. There is real world term. We
huh.
see
Water floating houses, houseboats.
there is a term, some kind of forests they are called
Oh, I
in
don't
our
know.
real world.
Mangrove trees.
Yes, yes. I think that what
Mangrove
that's what.
forest.
Yeah. So we went on boat, and so we saw all those houses on those water. It reminded me of that. I don't have pictures right now. I have to check with my
Hmm.
friends if they have, and I'll share if they have. You know, that's what get into my brain. It's so, I mean, such a real world setting, and I loved it. I think I am
Yeah.
thinking more and more about Jerez these days.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Then rereading Blood of the Mantis will be very fun for you.
Yeah.
yeah. I think out of all of them, Salarno is the one that really like I loved
Nice.
and I wanted more of, just like that blend of spider and other cultures, spider, beetle, and whatever else. And then you have like that's where we meet the aviators for the first time, which is really like what captured my heart, because just like seeing
Yeah.
such a great portrayal of early history aviators in this type of technological development was just freaking
Yeah.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
really loved that.
Yeah. That was so cool.
I can't understate how much like I really loved all the
Those
aviators.
early air battles that we saw there, where like Taki is like using all these levers to like control
Yeah.
her little aircraft, like was so cool. It was so cool.
And had to worry about how coiled her spring was, because that controls like how
Yes.
everything, and the
Yes.
ornithopters,
So cool.
and the powered thing. So
Yeah.
good.
So cool. So cool. Nothing like it I've ever read in modern fantasy or sci-fi.
Yeah.
It reminds me what happens at the end. All these people come to sign for the treaty. Once they all leave, Shane Talric comes and asks for a place in the treaty for Worm Kingdom, right?
I don't remember.
You two are worse
I don't
than me. Okay, what is your favorite book and least favorite book?
Oh, this is a good wrap up. I have to run soon. My family's going out for dinner, but
Okay, cool.
okay. I think I have an answer. My least favorite, I do. I think it has to go to. It's more of just a default choice. I liked all of these. I gave every single book 4 or 5 stars. So least favorite is just like my least favorite out of all books that I loved. Blood of the Mantis probably, just because that setting didn't captivate me too much. The Jared's setting, and it felt like this plot had so much momentum going, and it did feel maybe a bit side questy, but important, and I still liked it. But that just goes to show how much I liked like all the other books, because that was probably my least favorite. Favorite would, man, I loved War Master's Gate, Air War, Scarab Path, Dragonfly Falling. Those were all like Salute the Dark, even 5-star reads for me. So it's really tough to say a favorite, like impossible. I might say Scarab Path though for favorite.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the more I think about it, it's kind of a toss up between Scarab Path and Air War. It's definitely been something where I've been like Scarab Path for a while, but like Air War just continues to stick with me as well, as such a really good book. So those two for sure. Least favorite, I would say Blood of the Mantis is probably down there, and then Heirs of the Blade, just because there were a bunch of things that I was genuinely disappointed in Heirs of the Blade, around like Tynissa's story. So
that's definitely the slowest one, and there wasn't too much when I look back at the series that I can pick out as like a compelling moment from that book.
I remember some things involving like Tynissa and her father's ghost, but like that whole thing kind of like it felt like.
Wow, you all liked Scarab Path. Even Niru's favorite is Scarab Path.
Yeah.
And my favorite is between Dragonfly Falling and Seal of the Worm. I chose Seal of the Worm because, irrespective of me being creeped out about worms, he made me fall in love with what happened and how he tied up overall and how the characters behaved. So, Seal of the Worm. Least favorite is definitely Heads of the Blade.
Yeah, that's the one we talked almost nothing about in this whole chat. I think it is the most forgettable one.
Yeah, we only talked about Tynissa's character. That's all. Nothing about the plot or anything.
But like at that point in the series, like if that's the low point, he brought it all back together with that closing trilogy. Just all of those books, Air War, War Master's Gate, Seal the Worm. Like what a strong, tight, like fast-paced sprint to the finish for the series. Like such a strong ending. Like I love that like our weaker books were like kind of strewn throughout like 3 or 7. It's good that like the beginning's pretty strong. I think that brings people in, and then you know if you're already invested, like a slower book in book 7, like you're still gonna just finish it out, and to finish out strong makes it.
Yeah, because when in the middle books are little slow. See, suppose in Wizardly Discord, Patrick and Jellyfish was reading that time. They did not like Sea Watch and even 7th book. Then I told them it gets a lot better. You guys like Air War, and last 2 books were my favorites. Then they were like, oh, then we'll continue. I mean, it really helps when that ending is strong. For people to push forward.
Yeah, it kind of helps, especially if they like the first 4. It's just like, look, you're going to get back to that, and you're going to get back to it. Like he's writing it even better once you get back to it. Like the stuff if you really like Dragonfly Falling, when you get to Air War and War Master's Gate, you're like, you get some amazing battle scenes that really, while it's not the same as Dragonfly Falling because the nature of war has completely changed, it's still more the same writing, but just even better.
Yeah, stakes also got way higher. It's not the survival of their city anymore. It's survival of humans. I mean, their race all over.
Yeah.
It's great. Do you guys have any final thoughts you want to leave the people with?
I think we talked about everything. I like how he circled the characters. We started with few students and ended up with few students who are leading this new generation. I think that's
just that I loved everything about it. Yeah, it was it was awesome. Just man, what a thrilling, suspenseful, and like meaningful ride.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just still think it's just so highly underread and appreciated. Like I think its possible audience could be humongous that would love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Neeru, same. I can't wait. I think the more I'm talking about it, the more I want to reread it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat where like I kind of want to like reread it pretty soon. I want to get through a bunch of the other books that are in my backlog for Adrian Tchaikovsky first, which I have at least one Tchaikovsky book a month this year, and then I'll probably add more of the novellas and short stories as we go
Yeah.
on.
Before
So,
ending, I want to give a shout out to audiobook narrator Ben Allen. Oh my god,
Yeah, really good.
such a
Really good.
fantastic job.
Yeah.
He used different accents with each Kindle. So
Yes, yes.
even when we don't have physical book based on that accent, we can recognize easily what Kindle he's talking about.
Yeah.
Such a great job he did.
that's awesome. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah. No, he was a really solid narrator. But like one of the reasons like that was holding the series back for like 10 years, they didn't even have audiobooks until they recorded them just a couple years ago, the whole batch.
Oh, wow.
So like it didn't have audiobooks.
Actually,
For most of its
while we
existence,
are reading, in the middle of it only, he completed all the 10
Yeah,
books.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember him tweeting Tchaikovsky retweeted that, so I commented on that actually. Yes, I'm in the middle of listening to it. They're really good.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad because that increases the reach, because I know there are some people,
Yeah.
like you, Ben, who like really relies on those audiobooks
Oh, yeah.
for some series. That's good. Good. Yeah, everybody just read this series. Like it's so great. I'm gonna continue to proselytize it when I can. Just like, oh, you like Tchaikovsky or you haven't read Tchaikovsky, like Shadows of the App is a great place to, like, starting from the beginning is a good place to start. Even though it's 10 books, but it's like short 10 books. It's great.
I just had a real life friend chat with him who doesn't read too much modern fantasy, doesn't know too much about it, but likes it. And I've been recommending Tchaikovsky to him forever. But on his Libby for an audiobook that he was looking for, the only Tchaikovsky book they had for him was Empire in Black and Gold.
Nice.
And so he's almost through it, and he's loving it. And he didn't even know that it was part of like a 10-book series. Like I told him, like, oh my god, you just started a 10-book series, and it's amazing. And he's loving it just from book one.
You have to finish now.
yeah.
That's
hopefully
awesome.
they have, if they have that one, hopefully they have the others. He just said that was the only one available. Like maybe, but if the others have actually been taken out, like that'd be a little strange. That they were unavailable. Like that'd be cool that people were listening to it. But I hope he can continue.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you guys for being willing to talk about this series.
Thanks for putting it together. I'd love that we can chat about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
it's amazing how much we remember even after 1.5 years. At the same time, I felt like there's so much to talk about. We must have missed so many things actually.
Yeah, for sure. It really speaks to this. You took the words right out of my mouth, Anitha.
Sorry.
Yeah. This was such an exciting series to read, and it'll be exciting. Like we're gonna get to experience when Alan goes through it, hopefully this year, and then everybody else. So if you want to reread it, it's there for when Evie and the rest start reading it in April. So I probably will wait until maybe I don't know, maybe next year. I don't know. We'll find out. It'll be interesting. Thank you, Nero, for being the person who stuck through it all. You're awesome. And then everybody else who's watching the replay, thank you so much for watching. I'm sure all of you have read it. Thank you, Dominish, for getting us into this series, and Alan for hosting the original read along for it all. So it's amazing. Everybody have a great rest of your Sunday, and always make sure to get some rest, because that is super important. So bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye.